Live. Hi. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. Hey everyone. Oh my God, it went live exactly at 11:11 after I prepped everything. My name is 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. If this is your first time meeting me, especially if one of your friends entered themselves into the drawing to get a free personal training session with me in the month of December, I am a 23-year fitness professional, manifesting generator, 6'2", emotional authority, and I have had a lot of health issues that stemmed from a mind-body disconnect. And I started learning how to manifest using eating and exercise when I stopped binging 14 years ago. So if this is your first time meeting me, I had my last binge 14 years ago. And I went to therapy and I did cognitive behavioral therapy. And when I spoke with the very first therapist that I met with, I described all the stress that was going on in my life and my physical symptoms, which were just ginormous adrenaline dumps of getting hot, sweaty pins and needles every time I had a negative thought where I thought that I had messed something up. And I described how my stomach was usually upset. So we get through the therapy session and then I said, does my mom having a stalker have anything to do with my physical symptoms? And she said, yes. And that is the first time that I learned how impactful the early childhood years are to our stress management in our body. So in our 0 to 7 ages, we are in download only phase of our brain development. And our body is emotional. Our body's job is to pick up energetic frequencies, vibrations in the environment and coming from people to figure out if the person or the environment is safe. So you can think of your physical body as the emotional feeler, like the antenna, and then your brain creates operating systems and perspectives and then sets of actions to do based on the emotional experience of the body. So the deeper that I've gone into this understanding of how the mind body manifests not just the physical body, but also our reality and impacts our relationships, the more I realize that this game of being human is mostly a game of the mind. Because if you think about your mind kind of as the controller of a video game and your physical body, the player in the game, the perspective of the mind watching the video game player moving around the screen, the mind is taking in all the information around the player's body, right? So you're sitting on your couch, you got your thumbs on your controller, you're watching your player on the screen, and you're watching, are they surrounded by buildings and cars? Like, are you playing Grand Theft Auto and somebody's gonna come and, rob your car? Or I don't even know how Grand Theft Auto works, but like, you get what I'm saying, right? You're controlling the player, but you're watching the entirety of what not only that player's image is doing, but then also the environment. So when you zoom out and you start to look at the experience of being human as a player in a game, taking in all the information that's going on around the player, as well as the experience of the player itself and what it's doing, then you get you get more of an objective perspective on the emotional experience. And this is so important because we are fully equipped with our brain, with our heart, and with our lungs to direct and focus energy. It's one of the amazing things about being human. It's one of the unique attributes of being divine. We are a piece of God in the flesh. We are fully equipped with all of the function of the entire universe to manifest what we desire. And so when we really zone in into what's going on emotionally within the mind body, then we can understand how to work with the energy to change it. Now, when I got started on the last 4 years figuring out how do I explain energy with binging, I had a lot of criticism, and I had a lot of people say that I was doing it wrong, that I was being too matter of fact with energy, that I was being too masculine with the energy. And I would think to myself, well, that doesn't even make sense, because when you have a higher sense perception, when you can actually see with your sixth sense, and you have probable outcomes with exercise, you can apply a standard to understand how energy works, because it's really just two things. It's a thought and it's a feeling, and it relates to frequency. That's information that comes from the mind like a lighthouse, and it relates to vibration, which ends up being the manifested stuff. That's like bringing the ship home, because the lighthouse is calling it in. So when you understand that energy is thoughts and feelings, frequency and vibration, and you are equipped with the tools to make those things move, then it's like, okay, well, what am I actually going to apply this to? It's like if you want to get like firm and sculpted, you're going to do more bodybuilding exercise. If you want to just be strong like an ox, you're going to do more heavy barbell lifts where it's overall strength, where you're not really isolating anything. If you want to work more on coordination and feeling your deep core, you're going to work with Pilates more. So you have a physical outcome that you want with your body, and you apply the appropriate exercise system to get it. Same thing with the energy. So what I'm going to share with you in this live stream is how to look at your binge habit loop to see it energetically, so that you can watch your energy in other areas of life and your food, so that two things happen. You stop binging, and you're able to manifest exactly what you want in your life. And for a moment, I want you to close your eyes and think about what manifestation really means to you. It could be a car, a house, a relationship, a baby, a horse, whatever. It could be a thing. But when you're fantasizing about having that thing, quote unquote, manifested, what you're actually visualizing and experiencing in that visualization is the good feelings you anticipate having when you have the thing. But the problem for most of us who are obsessed with having the thing and obsessed with manifesting a better life is that we're coming from it from the perspective of the wounded child. And I hate to say this, and I hate to go so deep all the time, but that's really what it is. And the wounded child is actually just a dysfunctional mind body. So when you start to look at the mind body as the manifestation device, and you connect with the inner child, then you are changing the perspectives in your mind of your self-worth, and you're elevating your self-esteem. So then you don't need food and your body or that manifested thing as much. You feel more of a sense of completion and satisfaction within yourself. So back to this visualization. When you're thinking about what it is that you want to experience, the relationship, the car, the baby, the whatever it is, really feel what it is that you are emotionally sensing in your body when you see yourself living that life. Because that is the thing that we're actually after in manifestation. That's the trick of being human, where we get to direct energy. So when we manifest, or if we are focused on manifestation and we are not connecting that it is an emotional experience inside our body, we could get the thing and not even notice that we got the thing, get the thing and be disappointed that it wasn't as good as the fantasy, or get the thing and then like have the satisfaction for 30 seconds and then move on to another goal or another dream that you have. And when we have that happen, it's because we're coming from a place of trying to fill a void from that inner child. And it's trying to, if you think about it mechanically, it's that there's something missing between the connection of the brain and heart. of the mindset and the perspective and the emotional experience of the self-worth and the self-esteem. So let's break this down, because when you can get excited about what I'm sharing with you and feel this in your body that you can make your last binge, and you can start to look at this mechanically, then you're going to be able to get more perspective on the emotions that are causing your binge, okay? So you need to know about this mind body, all right? So in our ages of 0 to 7, we are in download only phase, where our brain waves are in theta, which is the same setting that we have in meditation, when we're in our flow state, when we're like vibing to the music while we're driving, when you can drive somewhere and not even know how you got there. That's the theta brainwave state. So when we're in 0 to 7, we're mostly in that state where our subconscious is just taking in information of how to do life based on the vibe that we're around. So if you have a chaotic household, if you have multiple houses that you're going to, and you have multiple people that are taking care of you, and the environment of those people and the people themselves are all very different, your download phase is gonna be really fucked up, to tell you the truth, because that's my experience. I can say it's pretty fucked up. It's like, it has felt like to me, there's all these different mindsets and perspectives based on the emotional sensation of, oh my God, I better fit in so that I can feel safe in this environment. What is it that I need to do to make sure that I have love and connection in this environment? Who do I need to be? How do I need to change to make sure that that's going to happen? That's how I feel my experience was with the multiple households and the multiple caregivers that were all oppositional. And on top of that, having my mom have her stalker. Okay, so there was a lot going on in my mind body. So in this 0 to 7 of our download only phase, we are experiencing emotions, and the job of the mind body, the job of the mind, is to perceive what is happening in the physical body, to make a connection. For the brain energetically, for the soul energetically to know, this container is where I am. This is my conscious perspective. This is my emotional experience. It happens in this container. And we need to be able to have an identity. And this is why identity politics is so crazy right now, because we're going through universal laws as we go through a shift with Pluto moving into Aquarius. Identity politics is what we are experiencing right now on the collective. Identity is extremely important. So in this 0 to 7, if we have negative emotional experiences, the brain of a child, it's like law in psychology. The brain of a child who's having a negative emotional experience will perceive itself as bad or wrong. Because if the brain of a 0 to 7 child having a negative emotional experience perceives the caregivers or the environment as bad or wrong, which really means on a primal level unsafe, then that is where there is a life and death threat. That is where, on a primal level, the mind body is like, I'm literally gonna die because this person isn't safe or my environment isn't safe. But because this download only phase of 0 to 7 is the formation of the identity, okay, Instagram froze. Because the mind body is forming the identity of the human being, instead of perceiving the person as unsafe or the environment as unsafe, it perceives itself as unsafe, as bad and wrong. So then what happens is we get these perspectives, mindsets based on the emotions in the body, and the brain, as amazing technical, mechanical piece of equipment it is, starts to figure out, if this emotion makes me feel bad or wrong, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be in order to feel good? and right. So this mind-body identity travels with us as we grow out of that 0 to 7. And when we have a lot of suppressed emotions, like for me, being in multiple homes with multiple caregivers that did not like each other, that required me to perform to make sure I did not show up as the parent that they did not like, on top of extreme fear from my mom's stalker. So I had all of that happening emotionally in my body. When we have those negative fear emotions stored in our body from that 0 to 7, and we create those perspectives to feel safe, to not be like the other parent or not do something, or to do something, to be right and to be good, that locks in a mind-body identity that says who I am is not good, who I am is wrong. The mindset creates an operating system so that as you go through life, we apply with different ages and stages that exact mind-body identity. And because these emotions were in a download-only phase of 0 to 7, they get suppressed into a very low operating system in the nervous system, within your actual electric signals in your nervous system. So you end up not actually identifying the feeling and the reason why you have this feeling. It just becomes your personality. So I became a fucking bully. I was an awful human being. And I had a falling out with one of my middle school friends in our 30s. And I recently reconnected with her, and it's like, that was me before I got into inner work, to where I really saw how I was the person creating my reality with these very low emotions that I created protection to keep people away so I wouldn't get hurt. So when we're getting older and we have this mindset that says, I'm bad, I'm wrong, and we are severely emotionally blocked, okay? I was severely emotionally blocked. Two things are gonna happen. Number one, we got balloons. Number one, we are going to take that mindset and perspective of self-worth and apply it to an area of life that makes sense for us. We could do it with relationships. We could do it with our finances. We can do it with our career. I did it with my body and my career. I had a mindset that said, if I achieve success in my career, then I will be good. And if I have the perfect body to prove that I am the perfect personal trainer, then people will choose me. And that mindset drove my body into the ground and caused my binge eating. So what I want to share with you in this next step is that if you are doing something with your body with the binges, when you're in that severely disconnected emotional state, part of the binge is giving the mind body a sense of connection, because the abundance of food secretes dopamine in the same area of the body of the opioid rewards. The reward center of the brain gets to go off when we have an abundance of food. So during the binge, remember when I said we're going to talk about this mechanically and emotionally. Mechanically, what's happening in our body with the binge, because the dopamine is being secreted from the reward center of the actual physical brain, and dopamine is flowing through your body on the molecules of emotion, you're creating a sense of connection, which is the thing that we're missing. When we've had an unstable environment and we've had to live up to multiple expectations from different caregivers, we're disconnected. There's no sense of self. So when we have the binge, mechanically, we're creating a connection of the mind body because of the dopamine. But then also, we are playing out the cycle of abuse. We are playing out the mindsets of the 0 to 7. So just think about what happens when you're approaching the binge, right? You start to, whatever it is, like if you're being strict during the day and then you end up grazing all night and then you binge. Whether it's you're like starting again on Monday and then on Friday comes, you go out to a lunch with your coworkers, you end up having a dessert and then you feel bad, you start to psych yourself out and you're like, okay, well, I already screwed it up. So then you just keep snacking all Friday and then you feel so bad that on Friday night you have a full-blown binge and then you already screwed it up. So then you binge throughout the weekend and then you really stuff yourself on Sunday night because you're going to start over on Monday and you are not going to do this again. Right? Like think about what you're thinking and feeling and what's going on in your life leading up to the binge. And then think about what you're thinking and feeling when you're in the binge. Because the mindsets, what you are saying to yourself is most likely two things. Either one of your caregivers who treated you like shit, or it's your little self telling you to stop doing it because it's proving that you're wrong and you're bad. So either your shitty caregivers who treated you like shit or you. The judgment that you're having while you're in the binge, that mindset is part of the download only phase of 0 to 7. The words that you hear in your brain while you're binging is the abuse. Then when you're done with the binge and it's like kind of winding down, right? Like we feel uncomfortable, we feel bloated, we feel like sick to our stomach because we're so stuffed. And we might have like a little bit of relief, right? Because we got that dopamine going. Oxytocin, acetylcholine, like all these hormones that make us feel really good come from a plethora of food. So you could have a little bit of an emotional bliss state, like if you were high, because it's the opiate reward center that just went off. But then when those molecules of emotion wear off, what happens? You actually sink deeper emotionally than where you were before the binge. So then what happens? We feel bad. So if we're feeling bad, what is that 0 to 7 mindset going to say? They're going to say, I am bad. I am wrong. I did something bad. I did something wrong. And then however you had to perform to have a sense of safety with the caregivers, that interaction with that parent or a caregiver is going to kick in. And you're going to hear the mindset and the perspective of that caregiver kick in and berate you, belittle you, tell you how bad you are, tell you how it's your fault. And then that little 0 to 7 emotional state of your physical body is going to feel worse and worse and worse and worse. You are reverted back physically because it's mind body and the subconscious has no sense of time. Those thoughts and feelings are enough to revert your physical body of who you are now to that 0 to 7-year-old when bad things were happening, when things were happening that shouldn't have happened. So then what happens? Because we have the mind-body identity that has this perspective of I am bad, I am wrong, and the molecules of emotion are wearing off, we're starting to feel bad that we messed up our diet with this binge. We apply the mindset, the perspective of that 0 to 7-year-old that says, I need to be good. I need to do this to make sure that I'm right. I need to do it right next time. And because we're focused on the body and food, like I said, remember, these mindsets just travel. The perspective of I need to do something to be good and I need to prove that I'm right, or I need to do it right and I need to prove that I'm good. That mindset is a perspective that just gets applied to every area of life developmentally. So as you go into being in middle school and your hormones are changing, you might have different perspectives about your sexual identity. As you're getting more into high school, now, like on a primal level, back in the day, that's when we were actually looking for mates because we were like primed, to have babies. But, most of us aren't having babies as teens anymore. But like on this primal level, we apply these mindsets and perspectives to how we fit in with the tribe, with our peers, how we fit in with a romantic partner to procreate because life wants to produce more life, and then how do we fit into the world? And we're making that perspective when we're graduating high school and in our early 20s. So these mindsets of I need to prove I'm good and I need to make sure I do it right, they're going to get applied based on other experiences that you have as you're growing up, and then focused on the area of life that you get obsessed with, which for me is my career and which is fitness. So I did everything in my power to prove that I have the perfect body, to prove that I know what I'm doing it right, to prove to be chosen as someone's personal trainer. I started being a personal trainer when I was 19. So when we are doing this with our body, because our body is the thing that gives us value in society, especially as a woman, and because this experience is emotional within the body, the thing that we do after the binge is figure out what's the next diet that I need to do. What's the thing that's really going to make it stick where I'm going to be able to follow the diet and get to the body of my dreams. And when I'm in the body of my dreams, I'm not going to need to diet anymore. And I need a diet that's like really strict because I'm really good at doing things, but that won't let me binge. And I'm going to be strong enough to not binge. That's what goes on in our head after the binge loop is over. Then we're able to restart, whether it's restarting every single day because the binge happens at night, or it's restarting every Monday because it's Friday through Sunday of a binge, whether it is just like a really strict diet to get to a wedding, to fit into a dress, or to feel comfortable in your bikini, and then the binge starts from the wedding on. The binge starts from vacation on. Right? So the binge habit loop doesn't matter how long it is and how fast it loops. It matters that you see the cycle. So now that you see the cycle, that there is a stress capacity that happens in the physical body that requires the binge, because we need that dopamine to make a sense of connection, and we are re-inflicting a learned pattern from that 0 to 7. So when you can see that this is learned behavior, it's something that happens unconsciously. Energy is supposed to work unconsciously. We're supposed to be unconsciously manifesting so that we can energetically be creating the experience while our mind is kind of like moving the code around to make sure that we get exactly what we want in the experience. So when you see how your perspective is impacting the decisions that you're making, and your emotional state is impacting your perspective, and you break it down to frequency is the brain and the perspective, emotional experience is the emotion and the vibration, now you have the keys to manifestation. So then what do you do next, right? Well, you embrace the binge. If you do not want to white knuckle not having binges anymore, observe your thoughts and your feelings before, during, and after your binge. Because those thoughts and the feelings are the energetic code to manifestation. The thoughts are your perspective of who you are and your worth and what you're doing. And the feelings are the emotional state of that 0 to 7-year-old. So then when you actually write down these thoughts and feelings and you look at the feelings and you're like, what exactly is this emotion? Is it sad, disappointment, defeat, loneliness, melancholy? What exactly is the emotion that I'm feeling before, during, after the binge? Because now we have something to work with. The perspectives, what am I thinking? What am I saying about myself before, during, and after the binge? Because when you are able to see the emotional state and the perspective, and you're ingraining in your mind some of these psychological rules and universal rules, then you get to unpack it very easily with just two things: frequency and thought, vibration and feeling. So now when you say, okay, these thoughts are the perspective, and I understand that the perspective is created by my 0 to 7-year-old that says the negative feelings that I'm having mean I'm bad and I'm wrong, right? Because if the 0 to 7-year-old said the caregiver was bad or wrong, or the environment was bad or wrong, that triggers the primal fear that I'm literally going to die because this person or the environment isn't safe. But because it gets internalized as the 0 to 7-year-old, because that's how the mind-body identity gets created, it actually means that I better prove I'm good. I better do it right, otherwise I'll die. It all gets internalized. So now you have a code, right? You understand the perspective of the emotional state. You have a list of your thoughts and feelings before, during, and after your binge. So if the perspective is the world and other people are safe, I'm the only one who's the problem and who's wrong, now you get to look around your life to see where else has this perspective showed up. Because what will happen, because we're attached to the body, right? Because this is mind-body identity. And because the binge makes us feel connected with the dopamine from the opioid reward center in the brain that gives us a sense of connection, what we're after, what should have happened had you not had a chaotic environment or caregivers that treated you like shit. That sense of connection, this is where we're attached, because this is the painful place that we are playing this out on ourselves, and the thing that we're holding the most value and our worth of our physical representation. So it's kind of hard to work on it in the place that you're feeling it. So now that you understand the perspective that says the whole world is unsafe, or that now you have the perspective that I am bad, I am wrong, the everything else out there is fine, I'm the one who's the problem, let me figure out how to prove I'm good and do it right. Now go look in other areas of life that you're not as attached to. The things that you don't care as much about. And see if you can find that perspective, and see if you can take the emotions from the binge before, during, and after, and be like, what would the opposite emotion be of this sad one that I'm feeling before, during, and after my binge? And how can I go create the opposite sensation in another area of life? Because then what's going to happen is you're going to see another area of your life change, because you're changing the energy. Now all of a sudden you're really being the player of the video game, watching the emotional experience of the player and the environment of the game change, because you took these negative emotions in the binge, flipped them on their head, got the positive code, and applied the positive code to an area of life that you don't have as much value and attachment in. Now you're changing your lifestyle, which is the holy grail of having sustainable results. Everyone knows you have to change your lifestyle in order for your dream body to stick, right? If you lose the 10 pounds and you did not change anything but your diet, and you started eating the way you did before you lost the 10 pounds, that old body is going to come back. But if while you're experiencing the emotions to create your mind-body connection by applying the positive emotions that are the opposite of your negative binge emotions, now you're making your life be the safe container for your body. And the more you can notice that and be like, oh my gosh, this is actually working. I'm creating my life. My thoughts and feelings and my actions are in alignment. This area of my life that was like so-so, it was fine. Now it's really good and enhanced, and I feel really good experiencing it because I took that negative emotion, flipped it on its head, got the positive code, and applied it over here. Now your environment is helping support your body so that you're not reaching a stress capacity so fast, requiring the binge. Right? Because the binge is just the dopamine. You don't have to feel bad about the binge. There's nothing wrong with you. It is your 0 to 7-year-old figuring out the fastest way to get a sense of connection with the dopamine. And the 0 to 7 perspective of I have to do it right to prove I'm good is the one who's choosing the diet. And the things that you say to yourself are The things that you're saying to yourself during and after the binge are the perspective and the projections from the caregivers that you had to perform for to have a sense of safety with. And they're the mindsets and the perspectives and the thoughts of every time you experienced another negative experience in your developmental ages and stages. So when you learn to unpack this stuff with the binge, the world is your oyster. And when you can get into that perspective that you are in control, you can't control what happens to you. You can control how you navigate it, and you can orient your life so that you are creating the emotional experience that you want to have, and it will show up in areas of life that it is most readily available to come to you. So you might, if we go back to the manifestation that we started, if you're wanting to manifest a car, a house, a baby, a man, whatever the emotions you think you're going to have having that, those emotions can show up in any area of life, because the game of energy is the emotional experience, and the mind recognizing the emotional experience of the physical body, and then having the perspective of, oh my God, I made it happen. I manifested this. It's just that we're all manifesting unconsciously because of that 0 to 7 that is disconnected. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And comment below, tag 3 friends to get entered into a drawing to get a free personal training session with me in the month of December. DM me Black Friday, because Black Friday I have a paid offer that you get to pregame 2025 with me in a coaching container. And the first 3 people, men can do it too, the first 3 people to purchase it get a bonus coaching call with me. And if you want to start with the binge habit loop, go to my highlights so that you can get the 25-minute training. It has 2 self-reflective prompts so that you can start to get into your mind body to see how the energy is working. You can go to bodyenergetics.com/free from binge. bodyenergetics.com free from binge to get that 25-minute training. You're going to opt into the email, check your spam, make sure that you got it, and then you'll get sent over to YouTube so that you can watch it. Share this video to your stories, tag me in it. That gets you another entry for the free personal training in December. And then after this post is up, I'm going to put up a static post where you can actually see the binge habit loop. And so it's kind of like an overview of what I just shared here. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.